Now, sit back and listen to my beautiful voice. I promise I'll put you to sleep. Welcome back. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Welcome, traveler of time and of dreams. If you are listening now, you have already walked with us through the earliest whispers of belief, through the long shadows of the lower Paleolithic, where meaning was only beginning to stir. Tonight, we continue that journey, but now, the world itself begins to breathe. Before we go any further, allow your body to soften, let your shoulders relax, let your jaw loosen, and gently close your eyes. Take a slow breath in and let it flow out again, slowly, without effort. Imagine yourself lying beneath a vast prehistoric sky, so wide, so deep that it seems endless. Above you, countless stars shimmer quietly, unchanged for tens of thousands of years. These are the same stars our distant ancestors once gazed upon as they listened to the night. Around you, ancient forests stretch into darkness, trees standing like silent witnesses, their leaves whispering softly in the wind. Somewhere in the distance, a river moves slowly, its voice low and steady. In the previous chapter of our journey, we explored the time when belief was still forming, when early humans may have sensed something beyond survival, but left only the faintest traces behind. Now, we arrive at a moment of awakening, a turning point, deep in the Upper Paleolithic. This is the time when scholars observe something extraordinary, a sudden flowering of symbols, of images, of careful markings left upon stone and bone, not decoration alone, but communication, meaning. Tonight's story is about animism, a word we use today to describe a very ancient way of feeling the world. Animism is not a religion in the modern sense. It has no temples, no written prayers. Instead, it is a quiet understanding that everything lives, that animals are not objects, but relatives, that rivers are not paths of water, but beings with memory, that stones, trees, winds, and fire itself carry presence and spirit. Archaeology does not tell us what these people believed in words, but it shows us how they treated the world, and from that, a gentle picture begins to form. In caves lit only by flickering torchlight, hands reached out and touched stone, leaving impressions that still remain today. Animals were painted with care, with movement, with reverence, not as possessions, but as powerful beings, sharing the same world. This episode is an invitation to drift into that ancient mindset, to feel what it might have been like, to live in a world where nothing was silent and nothing was empty. As we continue, there's nothing you need to do, nothing you need to remember. Simply allow the images to rise and fall like slow breaths. Let the modern world fade and let your thoughts drift back tens of thousands of years ago to a time when belief was not spoken but felt in every step upon the earth. Now we begin. Now let your awareness drift a little deeper as time itself begins to slow. We are moving into the Upper Paleolithic, a vast stretch of time beginning roughly 50,000 years ago. To archaeologists, this period feels different, not louder, not faster, but more Across distant lands, from Europe to Asia, from deep caves to open plains, humans begin to leave behind signs of something new. Stone tools become more refined, but more importantly, marks appear that serve no direct survival purpose. Lines carved carefully into bone, patterns etched into antler, shapes repeated again and again as if they mattered. Scholars often describe this moment as an explosion of symbolism, not because it happened suddenly, but because it appears clearly and everywhere. This is the period when humans seem to awaken, not just to the world around them, but to an inner world as well. A world of meaning, of memory, of invisible connections. In this time, the landscape is no longer neutral. The earth beneath bare feet is not just ground, it is presence. The animals roaming the plains, the bison, the horses, the mammoths, are not simply prey. They are powerful beings, sharing breath, sharing fate. Archaeology suggests that Upper Paleolithic people did not separate themselves from nature. They were embedded within it. Every hunt carried risk. Every success demanded respect. And slowly, through repeated action and careful attention, a worldview takes shape. Animism, as scholars later named it, was not an idea written down. It was a way of living. A way of sensing that the world was alive and watching back. In this period, fire is no longer just warmth. It becomes a gathering point, a center, a place where stories may have been told, where gestures were repeated, where memory was shared. Around these fires, under star-filled skies, people may have spoken of animals not present, of places far away, of moments that existed beyond the now. And when words were not enough, they turned to image. Pigment made from ochre, from charcoal, from mineral earth, was carried into darkness. Not into open sunlight, but into caves. Deep, quiet, enclosed spaces. This choice alone is meaningful. Caves are not accidental canvases. They require effort, intention, and courage. Inside them, light flickers, shadows move, walls seem to breathe. It is here, in these hidden places, that the Upper Paleolithic soul begins to speak. Animals are painted not stiff, but in motion. Legs overlap, heads turn, muscles curve with life. Some figures appear layered, as if painted over generations, suggesting return, ritual, continuity. This is not decoration for comfort. It is engagement, relationship. The world is no longer something humans walk upon. It is something they are part of. And within this worldview, death itself may begin to change meaning. Burials from this time sometimes show care, bodies positioned deliberately, colored with red ochre, as if returning them to the earth, not as waste, but as transformation. Scholars suggest, softly, carefully, that such acts may reflect an understanding of continuation, not an end, but a movement. As seasons passed, as herds returned, as stars traced the same paths across the sky, humans learned to listen. They listened to patterns, to cycles, to the quiet rhythms of nature. And in listening, they may have come to feel that every part of the world carried intention and spirit. This is the threshold we now stand upon, the doorway into a fully animistic world. In the next part of our journey, we will step into the caves themselves and let the painted animals guide us deeper into the spirit-filled darkness. For now, rest here. Let the images soften. Let that your breathing remains slow and steady. You are safe, and the ancient world is watching gently. Now allow your thoughts to move gently forward as we step away from open skies and toward the quiet mouths of caves. Imagine the entrance first, cool air drifting outward, stone worn smooth by time, darkness waiting patiently inside. To enter a cave in the Upper Paleolithic was not accidental. It required fire, preparation, and intention. As you move inward, the sounds of the outside world soften until only breath and footsteps remain. A torch is lifted. Its flame flickers gently, casting warm light across uneven stone. Shadows stretch, then retreat, as if the cave itself were alive. This is where archaeology meets silence, where the walls begin to speak without words. In places like Chauvet Cave, dated to around 36,000 years ago, figures emerge slowly from darkness. Lions, rhinoceroses, horses, painted with confidence and deep understanding of movement. These are not clumsy outlines. They are alive with energy. Muscles curve, heads turn, legs overlap, suggesting motion through time. Torchlight moves, and suddenly, the animals seem to walk. Scholars note how these images were placed, often where rock bulges already suggested form, as if the artists were revealing something already present. Not creating, but uncovering. This choice feels meaningful, as though the spirit of the animal lived within the stone, waiting to be acknowledged. Farther west, in what we now call Lascaux, painted around 17,000 years ago, the walls open into vast chambers. Here, bison charge, horses leap, stags lift antlered heads in quiet strength. The scale is overwhelming. Images surround the viewer, above, beside, and beyond reach. Some figures overlap, layered over generations, suggesting return, ritual, memory. Hands appear too, not faces, not names but hands. Pigment blown around fingers pressed to stone, leaving negative shapes behind. These hand stencils feel intimate, a moment of touch across tens of thousands of years. They are not signatures, they are presence. I was here. I touched this world. Some scholars suggest carefully that such gestures may reflect a desire to connect with the spirit of the cave itself, to cross a boundary between humanity and something deeper. In Altamira, bison painted on the ceiling seem to rest, their rounded forms following the natural curves of rock. They feel calm, grounded, as if sleeping beneath the earth. The choice of ceiling is striking, to lie back and look upward as animals watch silently from above. Perhaps this was a place of reflection, perhaps of ceremony. Archaeology cannot say for certain, but the care is undeniable, the repetition, the effort. These images were not meant for passing eyes. They were hidden, protected, returned to. This suggests meaning beyond decoration, a relationship between humans, animals, and unseen forces. In an animistic world, images are not just representations, they are connections. To paint an animal may have been to honor it, to communicate, to acknowledge its spirit. Firelight dances, the cave breathes, and for a moment, human and animal exist together on the same surface. These caves were not homes, they were something else, quiet spaces between worlds. As you imagine standing there now, let the darkness feel gentle, protective, and calm. The painted animals do not threaten. They watch. They wait. slowly. As the torch lowers, the figures fade back into stone, returning to sleep. In the next part of our journey, we will step away from the cave walls and turn our attention to small objects held carefully in human hands, shaped with devotion. For now, rest in the quiet of the cave. Let the darkness cradle you, and let your breathing remain slow and steady. Now, let your mind drift gently as we move from the vast walls of the caves to small objects carefully held in the hands of early humans. These are the Venus figurines, tiny carvings, small enough to fit in the palm, yet full of meaning. The most famous, like the Venus of Willendorf, shows a figure with rounded forms, emphasized fertility and abundance. The curves of the body, the enlarged features, speak quietly of nourishment, of life itself. Some scholars suggest that these figurines symbolize the nurturing spirit of the earth, a way to honor abundance, to express gratitude for the cycles that sustained life. Hold the image softly in your mind and imagine someone tens of thousands of years ago carefully crafting each line, each curve, with patience and intention. The materials were simple: stone, bone, ivory, yet each piece was sacred. Perhaps they were held before hunts, before planting, or passed from hand to hand as quiet reminders of connection. These small figures suggest a worldview where humans did not dominate, but participated in the cycles of life. Fertility was not merely physical, but spiritual, an acknowledgement that the earth itself gave, and that life was a gift. To touch one of these figurines may have been to touch the essence of existence itself. The hands of the maker, careful, reverent, guided by intuition, or perhaps by visions. Here again, we see the beginnings of animism, not as words, but as feeling, the recognition that the world is alive, that life flows through every form. Stone, animal, water, earth, all were part of one sacred rhythm. And the Venus figurines remind us that this reverence was not only outward, but inward as well. They echo the awareness that to exist, to give life, to receive sustenance, is to participate in a circle larger than ourselves. As we imagine these objects now, placed in small hands, let your own hands rest gently, your breath slow, and your mind drift. The past is not distant. It is here, in quiet recognition, in the reverence we carry for life. And so, as the firelight flickers and the cave walls are still, we feel a connection to those who walked before us and to the earth that held them. Soon, we will explore how this awareness shapes not only objects, but every interaction with the living world, with animals, rivers, stones, and the wind itself. For now, allow the image of the small, careful figure and the nurturing spirit it embodies to settle gently in your mind. Now let us step quietly into the daily lives of the Upper Paleolithic people, where every action and every movement was guided by the awareness that the world is alive. Imagine a hunter walking through tall grasses, the morning mist clinging to his legs. He moves with care, not only to track his prey, but also to honor it. Before the hunt, rituals may have been performed, simple gestures of respect, words spoken softly to the spirit of the animal, or perhaps songs hummed low. Every river crossed, every stone lifted was observed for the life that pulses within. Even fire, gathered from flint and tinder, was treated as a living partner, a companion for warmth, for cooking, and for the stories told around it. When the hunt was successful, gratitude was offered, not in triumph, but in recognition that the animal's life nourished the community. Imagine hands carefully preparing the meat, while hearts silently thank the spirit, the one who gives, so that others may live. Children may have watched, learning to respect the rivers, the rocks, the trees. The world as kin, not as object. In this daily rhythm, every small action carried significance. A broken branch, a dropped stone, an animal sighted was noticed. And in noticing, humans connected with forces larger than themselves, with life, with the unseen, with the pulse of nature. Seasonal changes guided ceremonies, the return of herds, the blossoming of plants, and the cycles of moon and sun, all were opportunities to honor the spirits that sustain life. Even the simple act of lying down at night under the same stars would remind them that everything is alive. They slept knowing the wind spoke, the river flowed with intent, the earth cradled their bodies, and the fire retained their warmth. In this way, animism was not just belief, it was living, breathing, and participating in the world's ongoing conversation. As we imagine this daily life, let your own body relax, let your thoughts float gently, as if moving through the misty forests of the Upper Paleolithic. Let each breath be a quiet acknowledgement of life around you, of life within you. And know that even now, we carry echoes of this awareness in the way we notice the small, the quiet, the living. Now, let us step gently into the shadowed world where the boundary between human and animal begins to blur. In caves such as Trois Frères, around 30,000 years ago, figures appear that are neither fully human nor fully animal. One of the most famous is the sorcerer, a figure with the head of a stag, the body of a man, and limbs curling into forms that feel otherworldly. These figures may suggest, carefully, the humans of the Upper Paleolithic engaged in vision journeys, trance states, or meditative practices to commune with the spirits of animals. Perhaps softly, these rituals guided hunters, healers, and leaders, helping them understand the balance of life and the unseen forces around them. Notice the detail. Antlers rising from human shoulders, fur and tail suggested in sweeping lines, limbs intertwined with the air. The cave walls themselves become portals, spaces where human imagination and the natural world overlap. Through these images, the early shaman may have sought guidance from the spirit of the bison, the stag, or the bear. Perhaps the act of drawing, or donning a mask, or performing a dance was a way to step into the world of these powerful beings. Therianthropes, half human, half animal, may have represented transformation, the fluidity between forms of life. This is the essence of early shamanism, a dialogue between the seen and the unseen. The cave is alive, The walls watch silently as the figure moves or as the hunter performs his ritual. Even the smallest gestures, touching a hand to stone or placing pigment carefully, could carry immense meaning. These practices suggest a world where guidance came not from words alone, but from spirit, from vision, from intimate connection to the life around them. And as we imagine these early shamans, let your own mind drift into quiet reflection, where human and animal merge, and the forest, the river, the wind all speak softly in unison. In this way, animism becomes lived experience, not theory, not concept, but awareness, pervading every step, every breath, every action. As the torchlight fades and the figures return to shadow, let the presence of these spirits linger in your imagination. Let the quiet of the cave and the murmurs of the ancient world envelop you completely. Now let us turn our attention to the traces left behind by the Upper Paleolithic people. Archaeology speaks softly through objects, through carefully prepared burials, through pigments and tools. In some graves, bodies were laid with intention, hands folded, heads turned. Red ochre often covers the bones, its warm hue suggesting care, a symbolic gesture perhaps for renewal or continuation beyond death. Some graves contain grave goods, small objects, tools, ornaments, items placed deliberately as companions for the journey beyond life. These acts, even tens of thousands of years later, speak to us of reverence, of connection, and of belief in something beyond the immediate world. Even hunted animals were treated with respect. Bones may be arranged carefully, skins preserved, as if the spirit of the animal mattered. It is in these careful gestures that animism comes into focus, as a lived awareness, not theory, but practice. Symbolic objects, carved figures, ochre-stained stones all suggest humans were communicating with unseen forces and honoring the life that sustained them. From the caves to burial sites, from small carvings to pigments, the pattern is clear, a respect for life and an acknowledgement that the world itself is alive. Even the simplest act, a touch to stone, a careful placement of an object, may have been a prayer, a recognition, or a gesture of gratitude. As we reflect, let us honor the quiet wisdom in these practices and imagine the care, the intention, and the deep sense of connection. Everything mattered and nothing was forgotten. Now, let your mind rest briefly before we move to the final chapter, immersed fully in daily life and ritual. Now let us return to the warm glow of the campfire. Imagine the hunters and gatherers sitting in a circle, faces soft and flickering light, their bodies resting, but their awareness alive. Stories are shared about animals seen in the day, about the rivers that flow endlessly, about the winds that move unseen. Perhaps hands trace patterns in the dirt, or small carvings are held, quiet offerings, to the spirits of the land. Every act has intention. Even the simple passing of food, or the careful cleaning of a tool, is part of a ritual, acknowledging life and respect. Before a hunt, the hunters may pause, offer a gesture of thanks to the animal they hope to encounter, After a successful hunt, gratitude is expressed again, perhaps by placing parts of the animal carefully, or by painting symbols on walls to honor the life that sustains the tribe. Seasonal ceremonies follow nature's rhythm: the turning of the sun, the movement of herds, the blooming of plants, all moments of awareness, of participation in the living world. Even children learn by watching quietly, by imitating the gestures, by feeling the pulse of life in every being around them. Rivers are not just water, trees are not just wood, stones are not just rock. All carry presence, all carry spirit, and all are honored. At night, under starlit skies, the fire's warmth becomes sacred. The flickering flames guide stories, and human hearts feel the breath of the world. In this daily immersion, animism is not abstract. It is tangible, living in every gesture, every step, every glance. As you imagine these scenes, let your own body rest deeply, let your breath flow slowly, and feel yourself cradled by the same spirits that guided these ancient lives. Soon, we will gently conclude our journey, reflecting on how these ancient whispers still echo in us today. Now, let us rest in the quiet of this ancient world. We have walked together through caves where animals breathe in pigment, through small hands that shaped Venus figurines, through the daily lives of people deeply aware. We have glimpsed the rhythm of a world alive with spirit, where rocks, rivers, trees, and winds all carry presence. Even in silence, the whispers of the Upper Paleolithic linger in the careful burials, the ochre-stained stones, the tiny objects held with reverence. Animism teaches softly that connection is everywhere, that life is not separate, that gratitude and care are not optional, but natural. And as you lie here now, under the same stars our ancestors gazed upon, feel that connection gently return to you. The spirits of the past and the spirit of the world are watching softly, without demand, without expectation, just present as you drift deeper into sleep. Let your thoughts float like leaves on a calm river, carried slowly toward quiet, toward dreams. There is nothing more to do, nothing to hold on to. Simply rest and feel the pulse of life around you and within you. Let the gentle spirits watch over your dreams. Let the earth cradle you, and let sleep come easily. Good night, and may you awaken renewed, connected, and calm.